My name is Abigail Hart. I'm 23, the quieter half of a pair of twins who grew up sharing everything. People say Emily shines, I steady. She fills a room, I read it. I like lists, small rituals, and promises kept. I don't raise my voice unless I must. Michael says I have a laugh that sneaks up on me like a hiccup and hands that know where everything goes. We dated for 2 years, and I loved how deliberate he was. How he listened before answering, how he remembered tiny things. My dislike of cilantro, the exact way I take tea. I believe in firsts you can point to later. First date, first movie, first trip, and, because we chose to wait, our first night as husband and wife. For that night, I bought a silk robe the color of champagne, wrapped in tissue like something sacred. I thought the story of us would begin there, neatly, with tenderness and light. Instead, it opened like a door I don't remember walking through. My wedding with Michael was the dream one, exactly how I'd sketched it in 100 neat lists, peonies in glass bowls, a quartet that understood when to disappear into the room. We'd promised to wait for marriage, so under the toasts and dancing a private current hummed, a countdown only we could hear. When the last guests drifted toward the elevators, I slipped to Emily's suite. We'd rented the entire floor, parents, bridesmaids, cousins, so the carpeted hush felt like it belonged to us. Inside, the door clicked shut on the day. I unzipped my dress and let the zippers sigh empty my ribs. Steam bloomed in the bathroom while I showered. Quick, hot, the kind that rinses off confetti and noise. Back at the vanity, Emily's voice moved around me, quick, teasing, competent, as I patted my face dry and twisted a stray curl back into place. I sprayed perfume at my wrists, the scent I'd saved for tonight, and watched the mist settle like a promise. On the sofa, my silk robe waited, the one I'd bought just for this night, champagne-colored, bias-cut, softer than a secret. I lifted it from its tissue and laid it across the arm, meaning to slip it on, tie the belt, and float down the hall to my new life. "You look like a secret," Emily said, grinning as she nudged the last hairpin into place. I reached for the robe. Then, nothing. When the world returned, sunlight was already high and bossy, turning the curtains hard white. I was on Emily's sofa, not in my own bed. My bridal updo clung stubbornly to my scalp. My mouth tasted metallic, as if I'd bitten a coin in my sleep. Standing took more thought than it should have. My legs felt delayed, as if the signal to move had to cross a river. "Em?" I called. No answer. The suite wore the strange neatness of a room someone left in a hurry. A glass with a lipstick half-moon, a hairpin glinting on the dresser, a chair pushed back like a thought interrupted. On the sofa arm where I'd set it lay the silk robe, belt loosened, creased, the fabric faintly wrinkled in a way that said it had been worn. I stared at it. I didn't remember ever putting it on. A prickle rose along my arms. I pulled the hotel bathrobe around me, the heavy white one that makes everyone look a little lost, and opened the door. The corridor felt deserted, like a theater before the audience returns. Closed doors, thick carpet swallowing sound. We'd rented the whole floor, but in that moment it seemed as if the building had exhaled everyone but me. In the elevator mirror, a bride in a bathrobe looked back. Smudged liner, wilted curls, the odd gray of a face that can't quite find its blood. The doors slid open onto clatter and chatter and the butter-warm smell of breakfast. Everyone was already there. Parents, friends, cousins with too much coffee brightness. Emily saw me first. "It seems our bride overslept," she sang, effortless, like we'd rehearsed the line. I tugged the bathrobe tighter, painfully aware of how undone I must look. On a nearby chair sat an empty space where I wanted certainty to be. My eyes kept snagging in my mind on the image upstairs, the silk robe lying there, somehow used, when I couldn't remember the moment it touched my skin. By the time I reached the table, the room had already settled on a gentle story about me. Late morning, happy bride, nothing to see. The clink of cutlery, the butter-warm air, the easy hum of relatives retelling last night, as if memory were a group project they all contributed to. Michael rose, the chair skimming back. The look he gave me warmed the space between us, eyes bright, almost reverent, as if he'd found a hidden door in me and was still delighted he'd stepped through. He kissed me with the calm certainty of someone replaying a wonderful secret. "Come sit," he said, his hand light at my back. A server slid a plate in front of me, eggs, fruit, a small croissant glossy with butter. I tore the croissant open just to have a task, watching the steam unspool and vanish. Across the table, Emily adjusted a pitcher and reached for a glass. She didn't quite meet my eyes. Or she did, and looked away so quickly it counted as both. Under the chatter, Michael squeezed my knee and leaned in, voice pitched for me alone. "You really left me there? I woke up and you were gone? Ran to Emily's to debrief?" He smiled like the line was sweet, private. "I guess so." The laugh that followed sounded borrowed. He glanced down at his coffee, pleased, like he was rewatching last night on the inside of his eyelids. "You were incredible," he murmured. "Like I've never seen you." The word never snagged. I took a sip of juice I couldn't taste and arranged my face into a shape that looked like happiness. Inside, I tried to stack logical explanations into a bridge. Nerves, champagne, no sleep. Maybe memory is a tide, I told myself. Out now, back later. Someone's uncle boomed a story about the dance floor. My mother's laugh chimed too brightly. My father interrogated the coffee as if it might confess. Ordinary life carried on with benevolent indifference. I buttered the croissant with surgical care, as if precision could steady me. In my head, the upstairs suite flickered back. Emily's sofa, the soft dent where I'd woken, and on the arm, the silk robe I'd meant to wear, belt loosened, fabric creased, unmistakably used. I did not remember slipping it on. I did not remember leaving. Michael brushed his thumb over my knuckles. "You okay?" he asked, catching the distance I couldn't hide. "Just tired," I said, and the table, kindly, let that answer stand. I smiled in the right places. I nodded at the right jokes. But beneath the clatter and warmth, a small, hard question settled like a stone in my pocket. How can I not remember my first night with my husband? I closed my fingers around it and kept smiling while the blank where a night should be stayed stubbornly, impossibly blank. We flew through a long sleeve of darkness to Italy, the kind of overnight flight that turns everyone into silhouettes and whispers. The cabin lights dimmed to a pretend twilight. The engines made their steady, mothering hush. Michael rested his head against mine and traced lazy circles on my wrist with his thumb. I watched the small screen map show our plane crawling over the ocean like a patient beetle. Between the lull of the engines and the white noise of strangers sleeping, I tried to talk my mind into giving back what it had borrowed from me. It didn't. Every time I reached for a detail, his voice, my heartbeat, the feeling of being wanted, it dissolved like mist. We landed under a sky that looked freshly washed. Florence, the choice that felt like a honeymoon pulled from a postcard, smelled faintly of stone and oranges. We dozed in the taxi, woke to church bells, dozed again while the driver chatted with his radio. At the hotel, a receptionist with a bow tie like a cheerful bruise handed us keys and asked about our flight as if flights were stories with tidy middles and ends. 2 days later, after galleries and gelato and an early dinner at a place with checkered tablecloths, we climbed the narrow stairs to our room. The window shutters were open to a sliver of moon. A soft square of light fell across the bed like a promise. I stood there and felt my breath lose its rhythm. This, even more than the night of the wedding, would be our first time, at least for me, because my memory of the actual first time was a blank page I couldn't fill. The thought made me ache with a twin feeling: grief for what wasn't mine to remember, and tenderness for the man who believed it had been perfect. "Lights off?" I asked too quickly, my voice catching on the first word. Michael paused, one hand on the lamp. Surprise flickered across his face and then softened into something careful. "We didn't need the dark on the first night," he said with a smile that held more affection than question, as if he were reminding me of a victory we'd won together. Heat climbed my throat. I reached for the nearest true thing. "Maybe just at first," I said. "I'm a little tired." He nodded. the easy kind of gracious that had made me fall for him in the first place. Then we start slow. He lifted a chilled bottle from the ice bucket the hotel had left, twisted the wire, and popped the cork with a modest sigh. "Maybe a little courage," he said, filling 2 coupes and handing me the one that gathered light like a small moon. The champagne sang against my lip. I took a second sip, then a third, and let the bubble hum smooth the edges of my nerves. Michael pressed a kiss to my temple, then another lower, patient, asking without asking. He had always been good at this, reading the small weather of my breath. "Am I doing something wrong?" he whispered, pausing, the question gentle as a hand on a door. "No," I said, too fast, then steadier. "No, everything's perfect, my love." And it was, in the way that kindness is perfect when you need it. He gave me the gift of pretending not to notice how my hand trembled when I set my glass down, how my shoulders held a flinch they hadn't learned until now. "You're so shy today," he teased, soft as velvet, not unkind. It made my heart knock, both because he meant it fondly and because the word today implied a yesterday I couldn't reach. I did not tell Michael that I didn't remember our first night. I couldn't bear to rub sand into what he clearly cherished. We'd made a point from the very beginning to mark our firsts the way some people press flowers into books. First coffee, first movie, first time we cooked pasta and oversalted it and still ate every bite. To confess a missing page felt like vandalizing our little museum of beginnings. Maybe my face confessed for me, some flicker of fear I couldn't hide, because he gathered me in and murmured, "Hey, we're okay. We're here." His hands mapped me the way you trace an old route to prove the road is still there. The lamp clicked off. The room shifted to a warmer dark, the kind that thins the world to breath and touch. I let my body learn its own map slowly, like reading aloud in a language you're rusty in. He kept his voice low, his movements patient, careful of every pause. When the moon slipped from the shutter's edge, we didn't chase it with a switch. We stayed with the dark, with the kindness of not being looked at too closely until I could bear it. Later, he tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and asked nothing more from me than a hand to hold. I curled toward him, grateful for the quiet pact we hadn't named. No questions. Not yet. Outside, someone laughed in the alley, an easy, late-night sound. In our room, the dark stayed dark, and for that first Florence night it was enough. The next night I told myself out loud, "No more hiding." Michael heard and smiled. "I don't think you are," he said, "but I like hearing you say it." "I want to be here," I said. "Really here." "You are," he said, and kissed my forehead like a seal on a promise. I tried. I let him read my breath and match it. I asked for what I needed in small words and shaky nods. When he whispered, "There you are," I answered, "I'm here," and believed it for a little while. On the night after that, our third in Florence, my fourth as a wife, he said, almost casual, "Could we try with the light?" A part of me flinched. He saw it and softened immediately. "Only if you want. I like seeing you." I didn't want a blank patch in my memory to run our life. "Turn it on." The lamp clicked. Warm light, his face, my pulse in my throat. "Hi," he said, eyes kind. "Hi." My voice was too bright, like a smile that hurts. We moved carefully, then less carefully. I made myself breathe. I made myself stay. For a few minutes it felt possible. Awkward, but possible. Then he squinted, playful at first. "Huh." "What?" My chest tightened. "I can't find your birthmark." The words dropped between us like a glass. "What birthmark?" I asked. The edges of my voice went sharp. "The one on your inner thigh," he said, pointing vaguely, not touching. I noticed it the first night. A roar filled my ears. One thought flashed, cold and electric. Emily has it. I didn't say it. I would not say it. I kept that thought like a live wire behind my teeth. "Describe it," I said instead. He blinked. "Abby, why?" "Please," I said, and heard how desperate I sounded. "Brown," he said slowly, "shaped a little like a heart, Right. There. His finger hovered over skin that was only skin on me. I felt the floor tilt. I don't have a birthmark, I said, like I was reciting a fact for a test. I never have. He frowned, searching my face. Maybe I'm mixing it up. It wasn't dark the first night. He faltered. I remember seeing it. Emily has it, I thought again, the words pounding. How could he not recognize me? How could 2 years of me be so easy to mistake? I smiled for him in 100 ways every day. I speak differently than she does. I move differently. We are the same until we aren't. Hey, he said softly, edging closer, palms open. What's going on? Am I doing something wrong? No. It came out too fast. I cleared my throat. No, you're not. Then tell me what you need. I couldn't hand him the truth without shattering both of us. I shook my head. Could we turn it off? Of course. He clicked the lamp. Darkness rushed back, gentle, useless. He kept talking. Steady, soothing words I couldn't catch. My name stretched as if it had to cross a long distance. Abby. I'm here, he said, hands warm on my shoulders. I reached for him and missed by an inch. Heat drained from my face, sound pulled away like a tide. The last thing I felt was his fear under his voice and the echo of the thought I didn't say aloud. Emily has it. Then the bed rose to meet me. Then nothing. I woke up to white light and lemon cleaner and a nurse saying something soft in Italian. Michael's hand was a clamp around mine. Hey, he breathed. You fainted. They said stress. The doctor appeared with a practiced smile. Una risposta allo stress, he repeated for me, then in careful English. Your heart is fine. Blood pressure dropped. Rest. No caffeine today. Breathe. He tapped the chart, nodded at Michael as if deputizing him to keep me from the world. I nodded, because nodding is the easiest way to be a good patient. Inside, the sound of his earlier words, birthmark, heart-shaped, here, kept replaying like a fire alarm someone had stuffed under a pillow. Michael smoothed my hair off my forehead. We can do nothing today, he said. Sleep. Room service. We don't have to leave the bed or the building or even this pillow. He tried to laugh, then thought better of it. He didn't ask me what had pulled the floor out from under me. Maybe he thought he already knew. Jet lag, too much day, not enough night. Maybe he was afraid that asking would make the ground vanish again. I'm okay, I lied, because it was the kindest sentence available. We stayed one more night with the curtains shut. He brought me tea I didn't drink and kissed my knuckles as if that part of me could carry the rest. In the quiet, I kept the thought where it couldn't escape. Emily has it. I said nothing. He didn't press. 2 days later, we flew home, the plane a long tunnel with sleep at both ends. New York felt duller after Italy's edges, which suited me. At baggage claim, Michael kissed the top of my head. We'll try again, he said. In a few months, a real honeymoon, the right way. A do-over, I said. Exactly, he smiled. A better first time. Like the first night, I thought, and the idea cut clean and thin as glass. I smiled anyway and let him take the heavier suitcase, and we stepped into arrivals like a couple with a plan. Back in New York, I didn't unpack. I didn't nap. I took a cab straight from arrivals to the hotel. Security, I told the concierge. My voice was steady. My hands weren't. The office was a small room with a humming fan and a wall of monitors. The guard, square shoulders, tidy nameplate, listened, then shook his head. We don't show footage to guests. Policy. I nodded like I understood and turned for the door. The tears hit before I could stop them. Hot, useless, undeniable. I wiped them away quickly, the way you do when you're still pretending you won't cry. He sighed, the sigh of someone who hates being the wall. 5 minutes, he said at last, sliding a tablet across. No photos. If my supervisor asks, this didn't happen. Earbuds. A progress bar. His face politely turned away. The hallway appeared. Familiar carpet, the tilt of a sconce I hadn't noticed until now. Time stamped itself into the corner, numbers indifferent to what they meant. 9:50 p.m. The elevator opened. Me, still in my wedding dress, stepped out and walked to Emily's room. I watched myself knock and slip inside. Good. That part fit what I remembered. Shower, perfume, the silk robe laid across her sofa, my hand reaching, and then blackout. 10:09 p.m. The door opened again. A woman who looked like me stepped into the hall. She wore my silk robe, the champagne one, with the belt hanging loose, the hem whispering against her calves. She didn't glance at the camera. She walked with that bright, swinging gait I've watched my whole life and never owned. She turned left like muscle memory and stopped at 321. Our door. One quick knock. In. The tablet felt heavier. I paused. The hair. More wave than mine. The effortless mess Emily cultivates like it grows that way. My stomach went cold. "Keep going?" the guard asked quietly. I nodded. The hallway waited. A staff cart rolled past. A couple crossed the frame arguing softly, a blur of hands and luggage. Midnight ticked through. 1 o'clock. 1:30. 2 o'clock. At 2:12 a.m., the silk robe reappeared. The woman slipped out of 321, hesitated to smooth her hair and tug the belt as if tucking a story into place, then crossed back to Emily's room and disappeared. I scrubbed the timeline. 9:50, me entering Emily's room. 10:09, not me leaving it and going to 321. 2:12, not me returning. During all of it, my body, the one I live in, never left Emily's suite. In Italy, I'd made 1,000 excuses: jet lag, champagne, nerves, the day too big for the night. On the plane home, I'd rehearsed them like lines I wanted to believe. The birthmark had been a fog. This was a wall. Birthmark plus video equaled a word I hadn't had yet: proof. I pressed pause so hard the pixels shivered. A crescent dented my palm where I gripped the case. "Water?" the guard asked. "No," I said, and heard how thin it sounded. I handed back the earbuds. He nodded without looking at me, as if privacy could be returned in small gestures. Outside, the lobby flowers were still pretending to be alive. A bell chimed for an arriving elevator. People checked in and checked out. Now everything was clear except the only part that mattered. What to do next with a future that had just changed its name? I stepped into the street, the city moving like it always does, and felt the proof sitting in my chest like a stone I couldn't yet set down. I didn't go home. I went straight to Emily's office. The receptionist started to stand. I didn't stop. I pushed through the glass door with my sister's name etched on it and said her name too loud. She flinched. "Abigail, what did you do?" My voice shook the picture frames. "What did you do on my wedding night?" Color rose to her cheeks. She stood, palms up. "You're scaring me. Abby, you sound sick. This is insane." "Don't." I took a step closer. "Don't call me sick." "Then what?" She forced a laugh, brittle. "You lost a night and made me the villain? You always did have an imagination." I saw the video. The room went quiet in a way that had weight. Her mouth closed, her eyes sharpened. For a heartbeat, we were kids again, caught, calculating. Then her shoulders lowered. "What video?" "The hallway cameras." I kept my voice flat so it wouldn't break. 9:50, I go into your room. 10:09, someone wearing my robe goes to 321. At 2:12, she comes back. I pointed at her without lifting my hand. "You." She blinked slowly, then leaned back against her desk as if settling into a better chair. "Then prove it," she said lightly. "No one will believe you." The smile that followed was small and mean. "You know how it is with twins." "I could tell us apart blindfolded," I said. "Deaf, dreaming, dead asleep. I would still know." She rolled her eyes. "Poetry doesn't play in court." "Why?" My voice cracked and I let it. "Why did you do it?" Her face didn't change much, just the eyes, a tilt. "I bet he's confused," she said. "Why Abigail was fireworks one night and a tree the next." The words hit like a slap. "You hate me that much?" "I don't hate you," she said, all reasonable. "I hate losing. There's a difference." When we were 13, you liked him, I said. You wrote his name in the margins. She shrugged. Everyone liked someone at 13. He didn't look at you, I said. And then, because honesty is contagious, he didn't look at me either back then. But at university he did. When I told you we were dating, you laughed and said you barely remembered him. I guess my memory came back, she said. Happens. What did you give me? My hands were shaking now. In your room, did you put something in my water? Did you? I have no idea what you're talking about, she said, bright as a bell, and smiled like we were sharing a joke. You left me sleeping, I said. You put on my robe. You went to my husband on my wedding night. She lifted one shoulder. If you're so sure, go tell him. Watch him not believe you. She tipped her head. Do you think he'll thank you for ripping up his perfect memory? Or will he remember that I was, what did he call it? Incredible. Tears burned, then cooled. You took something that wasn't yours. Everyone takes what they can hold, she said. You taught me that by being so careful. I looked at her. The same face, the same bones, the stranger wearing them. We are not sisters, I said. My voice came out low, steady. Not anymore. She spread her hands, mock regal. Your loss. No, I said, reaching for the door. Finally, my boundary. I left before she could turn that into a punchline. In the corridor, my heart slammed against my ribs like it wanted out. I pressed my palms to the cool wall and breathed until my vision stopped sparking. Then I walked, because movement was the only proof I had that I could still choose where my body went. Michael came in from work with the everyday sound of keys and a tired hey, loosening his tie as he crossed the living room. He leaned in for a kiss. I gave him my cheek. He pulled back, reading the weather in my face. What's wrong? We have to talk, I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Now. He set his bag down like it might break if he dropped it. Okay. Sit. We sat on opposite ends of the couch we'd chosen together, neutral, reliable. The silence between us was not. I went to the hotel, I said. Security. His brow pinched. Why? Because I needed the truth. I unlocked my phone, thumb shaking. I got a short recording. His eyes flicked to mine. Rules, ethics, something, and then to the screen. I hit play. The hallway appeared. 9:50 p.m. Me in my wedding dress, stepping into Emily's room. This part is me, I said. The scrubber jumped. 10:09 p.m. The door opened. A woman in my champagne robe walked toward 321, our door, fast, sure, bright swing in her arms. I paused on her profile. Who is that? He frowned at the screen, then at me. Tried a half laugh. Abby, it's you. Who else would be wearing your robe? Look again, I said quietly. Watch the hands, the walk. I don't move like that. I tapped the hair, the way it held tighter waves than mine had that night. And you told me you saw a birthmark on our first night. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Don't do this. I don't have one. Tears burned. I blinked them back. I never have. Color rose in his face. I couldn't confuse you, I couldn't. We've been together 2 years, I know your body, your voice, your... He stopped, jaw tight. This is insane. I let the video run to 2:12 a.m. The woman in my robe slipped out of 321, smoothed her hair, tied the belt, returned to Emily's door. I paused. The room hummed with our breathing. I never left Emily's room after 9:50, I said. I was asleep. He pushed the phone back as if it burned. So what are you saying? That on our wedding night, He couldn't finish. I'm saying what's on the screen. I swallowed. I believe you didn't intend it. I believe excitement and alcohol did their work. But believing doesn't change what is. He stood, pacing 3 short laps between the couch and the window. No. I remember. Your perfume. Your voice. You. He pressed his knuckles to his eyes. I know you. You didn't that night, I said, softer than I meant to. And I need you to see that if we're going to keep going. He stopped pacing. You think I cheated on you? You think I looked at your sister and... Anger sparked. How could you believe that of me? It's not belief, I said. It's proof. Proof? He let out a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. A blurry hallway and your theories about hair and hands? The birthmark isn't a theory, I said. You told me you saw it. He stared at me, breathing hard. I was excited. You're twisting. I'm not twisting, I said, and my voice finally broke. I'm trying to live with what happened. He sat again, elbows on knees. When he spoke, his voice was smaller. Why are you doing this to us? Because I want Anis that can stand, I said. I can't build a family on a story we both know isn't true. He looked at the phone, then at me. What do you want me to say? I want you to say you see what I see. I swallowed. That you're willing to sit with it. With me. He stared at the rug for a long time. The refrigerator hummed. A car door slammed outside like punctuation. Finally, therapy, he said. We'll go, if that's what it takes. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you either, I said, the truth heavy as a stone. But the truth has to be in the room, all of it. He nodded, once, like someone agreeing to a sentence they don't understand yet. Okay. We sat there, inches of fabric between us, oceans of night. He reached for my hand and stopped halfway. I let mine stay where it was. The recording lay dumb and bright on the coffee table, our faces reflected in its glass. Two people who loved each other, staring at the one thing love couldn't fix on its own. We tried. God, we tried. At dusk, I'd stand outside our bedroom like it was a cliff. The sheets were just sheets, the lamp just a lamp, Michael just Michael. And still, the moment my hand touched the doorframe, the picture jumped in. My robe, her walk, his face lit with that new coin look. My chest would lock. My skin would go cold. Some nights I slept on the couch and called it falling asleep to TV. Some nights I lay beside him, rigid as a board, counting to 100 and starting over when I forgot where I was. I'm here, he'd whisper into the dark. I know, I'd whisper back, and no, it wasn't enough. We went to therapy together, then alone, then together again. We learned words that sounded like scaffolding, trauma response, delayed processing, intrusive imagery. He learned to ask before reaching for me. I learned to say stop without apologizing. Sometimes we left sessions with hope, sometimes we left with silence. We kept showing up, but nights kept undoing the days. My body didn't trust the room. My mind didn't trust the story. Every time he touched my shoulder, some part of me flinched, for the version of him who hadn't known the person in my robe wasn't me. Anger arrived late and stayed. At him for not recognizing, at myself for expecting him to, at the alcohol and the celebration and the myth that a perfect night makes a perfect future. Once, in the middle of a session, the memory knifed through. Florence, his soft laugh. You're different tonight. Warm and admiring. Of course I was. Of course he liked it. The thought made my throat burn. After that, I started choosing the couch more. A year in, we separated. We told friends it was time to breathe apart. We told our parents we were focusing on healing. We told each other we'd try again. We meant it. We tried dinner at a familiar place, a long walk that ended at different doors, a weekend away where the hotel key turned into a paperweight I brought home and hid. I love you, he'd say. I love you, I'd answer, and feel how love can be true and still insufficient. 1 year and 4 months after the wedding, we signed the papers. Beige room, beige pen, a lawyer with competent hands. He looked at the lawyer when he spoke. I looked at the line where my name ended. When it was done, we hugged because we didn't know what else to do. He smelled like clean cotton and the ghost of our laundry soap. I wished him tenderness he didn't have to earn. He wished me sleep. I left the city afterward. San Francisco took me in like a tide, busy and loud enough to drown the edges. The noise helped. The bakery on my corner opened at 5. Sometimes I went early just to stand in the warm air and pretend I was learning a new planet's weather. Months slid by. I learned my block by sound. I could tell the difference between a garbage truck and a delivery van by the way the metal rattled. I learned where to stand on the subway so the doors opened to the stairs. I learned how to be alone without being punished for it. One afternoon, a screenshot buzzed my phone. Emily's Facebook announcement. Ring, smile, caption about happiness deserved and finally found. For a minute, I pictured walking into her wedding, my hair done like hers, my dress white as a dare. I pictured the hallway, the door, the knock. Revenge is a neat story until you touch it. I set the phone face down and let the picture dissolve. I'm not her. We share a face, not a fate. We're twins, but we're different. She's loud, I listen. She takes, I choose. I don't need a room full of witnesses to prove that. I only need the next right step. Coffee in a paper cup, a window open to sirens and pigeons. A day that belongs to me. I am Abigail, my walk is my own, and I will build a life that knows it.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and explore our channel for more love, betrayal, and redemption tales.